morning. Good morning, good morning, my friends. How are we all doing? We got 26 people here at the very start of this. That is awesome. You guys make sure you hit the thumbs up and subscribe while you're here if you don't mind. Let YouTube know this is information you like. And if you are brand new and you're going, who in the world is this guy in the flamingo Hawaiian shirt? My name is Chris, better known as Chris Cooking Nashville here on YouTube. And I do keto, carnivore, proper human diet stuff, lots of recipe creation, but we go a lot further than just that, and we're just going to talk about some of this today. But I am mostly carnivore. I do flex into the keto side from time to time, and I've lost about 130 pounds on a proper human diet, and we're going to talk about sort of that journey a little bit and some of the things that have worked really well and some of the things that I had to get figured out to sort of get back to losing the weight that I needed to lose. And as I'm continuing on this journey, trying to lose the rest of my extra body weight and not just lose weight, but fix a lot of other issues, metabolic health issues, and we're going to talk about my brain, and we're going to talk about all of these things that I've been through in this journey that has gotten me here, because you're probably tuning into this because of the title that says you don't have to be carnivore. Maybe. And we're going to talk about what that means. We're going to talk about the truth of this. And we're going to talk about the importance of why keto and carnivore people need to all figure out that we are one community working together with some differences in how we're approaching a few details, rather than two different camps that need to be at war with each other. Because if we're going to change the world and we're going to get this message out to all of the millions of people around the world that need help with their diet, with their metabolic health, we have got to stop fighting and stop acting like we are little individual sects of a cult, and stop treating people with so much disdain and disrespect as what we see in some of the fringe groups on all of the various social media corners of the internet, which I'm sure some of you have probably run into. So we're going to talk about all of that. Before we jump in, I just want to say hello to a few people who are here in the chat. Put it in the chat where you're watching from. If you're brand new, let me know. I'd love to say hello to you guys. And I just appreciate y'all being here. Make sure to hit that share button and send this to somebody who's trying to figure out, should it be keto? Should it be carnivore? What's the difference? Why is one better than the other? Is one better than the other? All of these things. We're going to talk about it today. So, excuse me. Let's see who's here. There's Mr. Jeff Cox. Brother Jeff. Morning, PhD peeps. My personal opinion is that carnivore is an A+ and clean keto is an A-. My wife is keto and I'm carnivore, and I'm pretty happy that we will both graduate with a 4.0 GPA. Jeff, I love that. That's a great way to look at that, and that's super cool. Thank you for sharing. Jeff is a member of our band, which is our private community where we do extra support. I do some extra recipes, live streams, Q&As, direct contact for all of my band members when they have questions, all kinds of stuff. If you would like to join, you can go, there it is, to the QR code right here. That's going to take you to the page where you can join our private community. We would love to see you guys over there and support you. It is a blast. It is an amazing community full of wonderful people, and they are just fantastic. So you can scan that QR code right there, and you can go straight there and join, and it's a blast. We have a lot of really great people over there who probably know a lot of what I'm talking about here, because I tell the band members about a lot of things going on in my life before anybody else knows about it, and we all work together and support each other, and we're not judgmental. You can be a vegan and you can come join us in the band if you want, as long as you're respectful and cool and you're supporting our mission of making the world a better place and all of us fixing our metabolic health issues. You are welcome in that group. All we ask is that you're respectful no matter what. So that's really, really cool, and I'd love to see you guys over there. So Jeff is a very active member over there, and he is our brother. In many, many ways. We love Jeff very much. Thank you for being here, Jeff. There's Carrie. Hello, Carrie. How are you, my friend? Pulling the boat up to the live stream. What kind of bus can cross the ocean? A Columbus. Hey, there we go. Sherry Nevada Pup is here. Good morning. And there's Doing It Wrong, Lewis Stone. Brother Lewis. Howdy, all y'all. Good to see you, Lewis. And there's my brother Dustin from Keto Simple. Dustin is also in the band over there, has his own little space. Very, very cool. Says it's a beautiful sunny day in central Indiana. It is a beautiful sunny day here in Nashville as well. It's a little chilly today. We're going to talk about that. Really, really cool. Dustin, also one of our moderators here. Thank you, Dustin, for being here. And there's Auntie Shauna. Good morning, Auntie. How are you? Another one of our Rockstar moderators. And the beautiful Cindy Demanch is here. Good morning, everyone. Cindy is also a Rockstar moderator and member of the band as well, as is Shauna. I have all these wonderful people here. Another band member here, Dennis. Good morning, Dennis. Dennis has actually been talking with my gorgeous wife, Ash, and they are getting things set up on the calendar. Dennis is going to come be one of the people who helps us eat a bunch of food as I am cooking recipes and photographing them for the upcoming cookbook. That's going to be a blast. We're looking forward to that. More information about that to come. Mrs. Newton's Big Family, Big Noise is here. Good morning to you. Let's see. Who else we got watching? There's Brother Barry Weems. Hello, Barry. How are you? Says, good morning. No, you don't have to be a carnivore. You just need to be a proper human without processed foods. Hope everyone has a great day. Barry, I love your outlook, and we're going to talk about that today. Kitty Marie is here. Good morning, y'all, from Texas. And Brian, good morning, everyone. Hello, my brother. How are you? And there is Brother Marty. Good morning, Chris. Good morning, Marty. Another one of our band members. Deanna is here. Howdy. Hello, Deanna. And Terry Sue. Good morning, Terry. And there's Karen at Low Carb Spin. Good morning, Chris, and all in the chat. Hello. Good to see you, Karen. Kathleen is here. Good morning. Happy to finally catch up with you. I'm glad you're here, Kathleen. And there's Patricia. Good morning from Massachusetts. And John, Cranky Carnivore Cutler's here. Good morning from soggy Tucson, Arizona. Good to see you, my brother. And Nellie is here. Good morning from New Hampshire. Hi, Nellie in New Hampshire. Let's see. Rosso, I'm not sure if I'm mispronouncing that. My apologies. I'm a redneck from Indiana. I struggle with names sometimes. Good morning, Chris. You should check out the Halo Tailgate Smoker. I'm going on 1.5 months of testing it. Halo Tailgate Smoker. I will definitely check that out. Never heard of it, but I'll go take a look at that. That sounds cool. Kelly Ward is here from Greater Cincinnati. Hello, Kelly. You're from my part of the country. I'm from about 45 minutes west in Sunman. You probably know right where that's at. Sunman, Lawrenceburg, Greendale, Batesville, kind of that part of the world. That's my stomping grounds. My parents live in Sunman. Jackie is here. Good morning from rainy, sunny Long Beach, Washington coast. Good morning, Jackie. There's Loretta. This is so true. Listening from Kansas. Hello, Loretta. So glad to see you from Kansas here. There's Lynn Reed. Hello from North Texas. Great topic today. Happy Monday. Thank you, Lynn. I think this is going to be a good one. Kim, morning. Sunny and 65 in Xenia, Ohio. Very cool, Kim. Thank you for being here. And there's Daria, I don't know how you pronounce it, I apologize if that's wrong, expecting our once-a-year rain today here in Los Angeles. You're out there where my big brother is at. Crow is here. Good morning, Crow. Marty says would love to taste test for the cookbook also. Marty, send me a message. Let me get you in touch with Ash because she runs our calendar, and we have some sessions, and maybe we could work that out, brother. Just shoot me a text or a message and remind me, and I'll get you in touch with Ash. And speaking of my big brother, there he is, Brandon. Good morning from California. Hello, big brother. How are you today? That's Ash's oldest brother, and I'm an only child, so this is the first time I've ever had a big brother. Is having Brandon in my life. So very glad he is here as well. And he says, I'm so looking forward to your cookbook that is coming out soon. When do you think it'll be out? So hopefully early this next year. Working on getting things like the pictures and all that stuff done. And then we have to turn in the rest of the manuscript. And then there's the editing process and design and layout and all sorts of stuff. So we're working with the publisher, but hoping early this next year. So we will definitely let you guys know as we know more about that. John says, I love Ash's new song, This Town Built Me. If you have not heard, go to ashtaylor.com. You can find all of her social medias. On her YouTube channel, we just premiered her brand new music video for This Town Built Me. I filmed and edited. She and I produced it together. Of course, she starred in it. We had a blast. It is the best music video I think we've ever done, and it's an amazing song, guys. Please go check it out. Give her some spins on Spotify and wherever you listen to digital music, and also go get a bunch of watch hours on that music video and share it, please. We would love that so much. Kelly says, you and I are not too far apart. Go to Sunman or Lawrenceburg a few times a year. Cool, Kelly. That's awesome. Nelly says, Chris, you have an amazing voice. Sound like a radio disc jockey for a blues or soft rock radio station. Well, Nelly, thank you so much. I appreciate that. Funny, guys, when I first started my channel, I actually had someone that commented on my old pizza video, the very first pizza recipe video I did. I hid them from the channel, but they commented on that, and they said, the sound of your voice makes me want to cut my jugular vein. So, Nelly, I appreciate the encouragement. Not everybody agrees with you, and that's all right. Everyone's entitled to their opinions, but I just think that's funny how you can have such vastly different views on that and when you're on the internet. So, but I very much appreciate that, Nelly. Thank you. I try to speak calmly and clearly to the best of my abilities. El Mission is here. Hi, my goal was to lose weight and get to a certain point and start bringing back some carbs, veg to the extent that I can handle it, mainly due to me missing those things. Nothing more, really. And you know what? If that's what works for you, that's great. Dennis says, I love This Town Built Me, both the song and music video. Well, thank you, Dennis. We appreciate you watching. El Mission says, Chris with carnivore recipes for carb subs helps out quite a bit. I agree, and that's why I started doing those. So, well, guys, let's talk about this topic. This is going to be an interesting one, I think. So we got 50 people watching. Make sure you guys hit that thumbs up so we can get the word out about this, because I think this is going to help a lot of people, and I would love to know what you think about this as we're talking about this. So drop it in the chat, your thoughts on being carnivore versus keto, any of this stuff as we go. So here's kind of my whole outlook on this. You don't have to be carnivore. Maybe. Here's what I mean. You do have to stop lying to yourself about what your body actually needs. And this is the problem with so much of what is going on metabolically with people in the world right now. You don't have to be carnivore, but you have to stop lying about what your body needs. And this is tough to do when the medical establishment and big food and big pharma and big government and all of these things say so many of the things that they do, and they push so many untrue things. So here's the problem. People treat keto versus carnivore like these are religions. And we all have to battle and we all have to war with each other, and we're all different and we're in different camps and we're enemies and all of this. And the thing that's ridiculous about that is it makes us look crazy to the rest of the world who doesn't eat low carb, and they think all of it is ridiculous and way too strict. And we are our own worst enemy as a community when we act this way. And this is really important that we understand this, because if we're going to help people and if we're going to change things, we've got to get over the dogma, and we've got to get over this idea that we need to be butting heads, because we are making ourselves look like we're insane. And truthfully, as someone who believes in keto and carnivore, a lot of the places I go on the internet, I refuse to interact because I think it's insane. It's really bad sometimes, and not all the time, but there's a certain part of the community that is very loud and very opinionated, and they don't even necessarily have any facts to back it up. They're just buying into dogma like it's a religion, and it's crazy. So we're going to talk about the truth. We're going to suss all of this out, and we're going to skip the dogma and all of the BS, okay? So here's the truth. Both keto and carnivore can work if you understand how to use them, and you decide which one based on your body and the things you're experiencing and the way your life works and the things you enjoy and what makes you happiest. If you use that stuff and you choose which one for the right reasons. You have to understand how to use them, and you have to understand why you would pick one over the other, and then do your own work and experimentation to figure out which one makes you happiest and feel the best. So we're going to talk about real science behind both. And I'm going to begin to tease out for you guys a little bit of my shred protocol, which is what's kind of tying them together here. And when I started developing this idea of this shred protocol that I am using, this was sort of a concept of like, I don't want this to have to be carnivore or have to be keto. I want it to be able to be a protocol that works in both realms, so anybody can use what I'm trying to use if they want to. Now, I need to make a disclaimer here. This is not medical advice. I am not a doctor. Even if I was a doctor, I would not be your doctor. So I am not telling you to do what I do. I'm telling you what I do and the science behind why I do it. And if you want to do it, That is something you have to make a decision for yourself in your own life. Talk to your own doctor. Decide this based on your understanding of things and your relationship with your doctor. I am not a doctor. I'm not going to give you any medical advice. I'm just going to tell you what I'm doing and why. And if you want to do that, that is up to you. Okay? Just got to get that out there. All right. So here's kind of where all of this comes from and why I put my shred protocol together the way that I did. And I'm going to tell you about why that is so successful here in a minute. So hang with me. So the core truth of all of this stuff, keto, carnivore, everything, the body runs basically majority of the time on two fuels. It runs on glucose or it runs on fat, which is, yes, yeah, thumbs up. Or it runs on fat, which is actually ketones, because fat is being broken down into the ketones and then our body runs on ketones. This is why it's called ketosis and why it's called a keto diet. Ketones, ketosis, keto, all right. Okay. So let's look at some just actual data here. So the average American right now eats 250 to 300 grams of carbs a day. I can tell you I was eating a lot more than that when I was on a standard diet because I was binging and I was just doing horrible things because I had a horrible relationship with my food. That's why I ended up being 400 pounds. If you guys did not know, I was 400 pounds at one point. I don't think people realize when they look at me and they go, you still have weight to lose. Why are you a carnivore and still have weight to lose? Well, part of that is because this is what I used to look like, okay? And this right here is actually, I had already lost some weight. Like this was me at about 385, roughly 390 pounds. So this is when I had actually lost some weight. And guys, this is not good, okay? This is what I used to look like. So I was really big. I was a binge eater. I had a horrible relationship with food. Not good. So the average American, and I was way above average, but the average American eats 250 to 300 grams of carbs a day. All right? That's more than I get in a week at this point. Ketosis, for most people, starts around under 50 grams a day. And there's a natural distribution curve to all things. Some people may end up going into ketosis with a lot more carbs. Some people might take less carbs. I don't know. That's an individual thing. But on average, 50 grams a day or less kind of puts you into that you're going to start going into ketosis range usually. Carnivore is generally considered to be less than 10 grams a day, and it's just the trace carbs from things like eggs. There is a little bit of glucose in meat, dairy, and if you include dairy, like those kinds of trace carbs. And if you're intentionally staying 10 grams a day or less, we kind of call that ketovore if you're including veggies. If it's all coming from animal product, then that's carnivore, right? We're trying to stay as close to zero as possible with carnivore, but generally, even with the trace carbs, if you have lots of them, you're still under 10 a day. So here's the thing. When we have glucose be our fuel, it is fast, it is unstable, and it is very insulin heavy because we need insulin to process glucose. We go through glycolysis where we break the sugar down. We need insulin to do this. It's a whole hormonal process, and it leads to all of these metabolic issues in the body. Glucose being our fuel source is our big problem. Even if we use a little bit of glucose in the body, fine. But running on so much glucose and all of these things in our body, our insulin is through the roof. Our sugar is through the roof. We're struggling with our hormones. Our metabolic health is an issue. We're holding on to fat because all we're ever doing is trying to burn through glucose. We get when we have the glycation of our cells because there's glucose around, and so our cells become glycated because all of this extra sugar in our body, it's damaging cells. It's causing oxidative stress. This is what we're seeing, okay? That's when glucose is our fuel. Now, when fat is our fuel, this is a slow, stable, and brain-fueling fuel source. And that's the key. It's also not glycating our cells when we have fat in our body. So glucose versus fat as our main fuel source is really kind of the whole thing with low carb. Because when we're doing low carb, we're not eating enough glucose or enough anything that can turn into glucose to that be our main fuel source. We burn through what little or none we get, but we burn through the little bit that we have, and then we have fat as our main fuel source. And if we need glucose, there's a process called gluconeogenesis where your liver can actually take protein and create its own glucose. We're going to talk more about that, but the long and the short of it is you cannot eat enough protein to force yourself to have high glucose. Okay? Gluconeogenesis is a needs-driven process, not something you can force your body to do. That's a huge myth in keto and carnivore. We're going to come back to that. So essentially, keto is an open highway to fat burning because fat is our fuel source. Carnivore is kind of the fast lane to the same place, but they're both heading the same direction. And there's some differences as to why one might work better than another. So let's compare keto and carnivore just a little bit. And I was going to put together a table for this to show you guys visually, and I just totally forgot. So I'm just going to read it off. Just try to follow me here. So carbs. Keto is somewhere in that 10 to maybe up to 50 grams a day. Okay, that's keto. And that's where we're in that fat burning state and we're creating ketones. We go into ketosis, whatever. Carnivore is that below that 10 grams a day, and we're not using plant products, okay? But they're still both based on that ketosis, that fat burning method. Protein on keto is moderate to high, and sometimes it's on the moderate side because we're pushing that fat really high. Carnivore is going to be high. Even if you're trying to do high fat carnivore, you're still going to be real high in protein because all you're eating is animal product for the most part. This is 1.2 to 1.5 grams of protein per pound of goal weight, generally speaking. And again, these are all general things. There's a natural distribution curve for everyone, but generally that's where we're at. Fat. In keto, it's a lever for energy. In carnivore, it's a lever for energy. Dietary fat is something that we can eat to get energy and hormone balance and a bunch of other things we're going to talk about. But fat is used in the same way in both of them. Protein is used in mostly the same way in both of them. Fiber. On keto, it's optional. You can have it, you don't have to have it. On carnivore, you're basically avoiding fiber because you're not eating the veggies. Electrolytes. In keto, you have added electrolytes because it helps keep your electrolyte balance in place. And you know, when you're in ketosis, you are going to flush some electrolytes, but you're getting a few carbs, so you're going to probably hold on to a bunch of your electrolytes over a long period of time a little bit better. Carnivore, it's essential. You have to have your electrolytes because you're eating basically no carbs and your body is going to flush your electrolytes. And if you're not getting electrolytes, you're going to probably struggle. So get your electrolytes either way, but especially when you're carnivore. The goal of keto is flexibility and fat burning. The goal of carnivore, yes, is fat burning, but it's also healing, elimination, and an extra layer of clarity that some people find they only get with carnivore. So really, keto is just adding food that finds flexibility, and carnivore is removing food to find stability. So when you lean keto, it's because you want some more flexibility, and you find you feel better with that little bit of fiber or these extra things. With carnivore, if you lean that way and you stay away from the keto, it's really about removing certain things to find your stability and your extra healing. But both of them are operating on very similar principles, which is why when I see people who are keto versus carnivore and they're battling back and forth and they're arguing with each other and they're telling each other how stupid they are and all this kind of stuff, it's heartbreaking because we have answers that the world needs to hear. And we're just figuring out reasons to fight with each other and completely losing the goal of being able to spread this message and help people. So we really need to pay attention to these things. Okay, so let's talk about some common ground here because we as a community need to connect over these things. So there's 3 universal principles here. Low carb, of course, I think everyone understands. The lower insulin, because we're not eating high carb, unlocks fat burning. This is why keto and carnivore both lead to so much weight loss for people who need to lose weight. They can also lead to weight gain for people who are undernourished. We're going to talk about that. But lowering your insulin unlocks your fat burning, because when your insulin is high, your hormones are out of whack, it prevents your body from burning fat the way you need to. So low carb, lower insulin, unlocking fat burning. It's the same thing in both keto and carnivore. High protein is the next one. This builds and protects muscle, which changes your body composition. So we've talked about how your body in this community, we talk about this all the time, how your body can actually take broken down cells like fat cells or old cells that are not good, whatever. And as you're kind of going through this sort of fasting, similar to fasting thing in your body, which is what ketosis sort of does to you. It mimics fasting, right? Your body goes through a process where it actually breaks things down. It's called autophagy, and it takes cells that are not helpful, breaks them down into their pieces, and it can use them to create other things. So your body composition changes. As you burn and lose fat and flush out inflammation, you can then take the good parts of any of those cells broken down. Your body can build muscle cells, bone cells, organ cells, eyeball cells, brain cells, whatever you need. It can rebuild good stuff. So what's happening is, even if the scale doesn't go down, sometimes your fat starts to go away and more muscle and bone density comes in. And that's what we want. We don't care about losing weight. We care about losing fat when we have extra fat. So your body is building and protecting the muscle, and it's actually changing your body composition with less fat, more muscle and bone density and healthy things, okay? That's number 2. Number 3, fat is used as a lever. You add it for maintenance and you drop it for some shred. Now we're going to go a little bit deeper into that, so hang with me. I'm not talking about low fat eating here. I'm talking about using fat as a lever, and this is similar in both keto and carnivore. Maybe slightly different depending on your goals, but that's where you get to make a decision, and this is really important to understand, that fat is a lever and it gives us control and power. So here's a couple of things you need to sort of think about when it comes to keto and carnivore. Protein, when you eat it, has a thermic effect up to 30%. What that means is that it actually burns calories. Now, I'm not a calorie counting guy, okay? I'm just using it as a reference. So if you're one of those that, calories don't matter, I agree with you, but stop yelling at people about calories. I'm just using it as a reference point. Protein's thermic effect, up to 30%, is that it's burning calories to digest and break it down. So even though you get calories from eating it, you're also burning. So it has a thermic effect in your body where some of the actual protein digestion offsets the protein you're eating. So it helps you lose weight. It really does. Also, it protects all of the things you need in your body, your bones and your muscles and your eyeballs and all the important cells. Protein helps you maintain that. The body stores 100,000 plus calories in fat versus about 2,000 in glycogen. Okay? Your ketones boost the brain growth factor. It's called BDNF. So the ketones are boosting your brain growth factor. It's why you get so much clarity and so much better function in your brain when you're in ketosis. And the other thing you really need to remember here is that muscle is the best predictor of metabolic health. When you have really high muscle content and lower fat content on your body, you have a lot better metabolic health, generally speaking. So this is what we're thinking about as we're shooting for all this. So carbs control your energy, but protein controls your hunger, and fat controls how fast you can shred the fat on your body. I'm going to say that again. Carbs control your energy, because when you get too many of them, you crash and you have no energy. Protein controls your hunger. So when you're hungry and you're just like, gah, you need a bunch of protein. Fat controls how fast you shred your body fat. Now, fat is also satiating, so protein is not the only thing controlling your hunger, but it is a huge help. And then fat is a lever back and forth for satiation versus shred. And we're going to talk about that with my shred protocol. So really quickly, I said I wanted to touch on gluconeogenesis. The gluconeogenesis myth, and I see this popping up because I still get questions about this. I've had people say things like, have you heard if you eat more than 30 grams of protein that you're gonna basically you're gonna force gluconeogenesis to happen. You're gonna raise your glucose in your body because you're eating too much protein. This does not work this way. So we're gonna kill one of the biggest myths that is out there in the low carb world, which is eating too much protein kicks you out of ketosis by turning into sugar. So here's the truth. Gluconeogenesis, it's called gluconeogenesis because it means making new glucose. It is a demand-driven process, not a supply-driven process. You cannot eat enough protein to make your liver forced into glucose creation. It is demand driven. When your body needs glucose and you don't have any, your liver will use protein to create it. You cannot make your liver do this. Now, there may be other things getting too much protein is doing to you. I don't know. I'm not a doctor. But the way your body works, you cannot eat enough protein to force your liver to make sugar. It's a huge myth. Dr. Ben Bickman, I believe it is, talks about that. I know there's several doctors that talk about it, but I think Ben Bickman talks about one a little bit. I know Dr. Berry has talked about this as well extensively. The liver only converts protein into glucose when your body needs it, not just because you ate more protein. So essentially what I'm saying is your liver isn't stupid. It only makes sugar when your body needs it, and eating a steak does not turn into a candy bar. Okay? You cannot eat enough steak to make your body be full of glucose. It does not work. It is not physiologically the way your body is designed. So the gluconeogenesis rate stays stable even when protein doubles. There's studies that show this. Protein barely moves blood sugar in keto-adapted people. And protein raises a glucagon, which is balancing your blood sugar and keeps you in ketosis. So protein actually helps keep you in ketosis, not kick you out of it because of the glucagon spikes. Not really even spikes, but just the rise in glucagon, which you need for balancing your blood sugar. So protein is your friend, okay? Eat your meat because you cannot force your body out of ketosis with ribeyes. It's just not physiologically possible. Now, if you eat ribeye and you go out of ketosis and something is happening to your sugar, there's something deeper going on and you need to talk to a doctor about that. But that is not the way your liver works, to eat a ribeye and then have it turn into sugar. It just doesn't do that. Okay, so all of this then comes down to why I've been doing my shred protocol. And I'm going to create some videos for the channel here where I kind of go through this in stages where you can sort of follow along with it if you want to try it. Again, I'm not a doctor, no medical advice, not saying you should do this, just telling you what I did and why I created this protocol, why I'm following it, what it's doing for me. And if you are interested in trying it, I'll tell you how it is I do it. So, but we're going to kind of just overview it today, and then I'll put together videos where I actually give you the ins and outs of it. So, I live mostly carnivore, okay? 95% carnivore. But I use keto the same way a musician does a key change. I'm not cheating when I use keto for a certain meal. I am composing, okay? So here's sort of the way my shred protocol is developed. The foundation of it is ruminant meat daily. Daily, I try to have red meat for the most part. There are some days where I don't, and that's a very specific reason, and we'll talk about that in a minute. But most days, ruminant meat is part of what I do. My protein, so we're going to talk macros here for a minute. Now, I am not a macro counter guy. I don't get super into this. I've made this, what I'm doing here, very easy, and I kind of calculated this all out, and I'll tell you sort of a little bit more about that in my videos that are coming up. But I kind of calculated this out just so that I have a basic baseline that I'm hitting, and then I flex it around a little bit. So my general baseline protein is 1 to 1.5 grams per pound of my goal weight, and I would like to get between 180 and 200, roughly, maybe 220. I'm not sure. It's been so long since my body has been at that weight. I don't actually know where my ideal body weight is down there. So somewhere around that 180 to 220 range, I think, is probably right. I don't know. I'm 6 feet tall, and I have a really big bone structure. So I'm not sure where exactly I'm supposed to sit. But I use 200 just as a baseline for my protein. So about 200 grams of protein a day is what I'm shooting for. My fat, I adjust back and forth depending on if I need energy and recovery or if I'm trying to use fat loss as my goal that day. And my carbs are anywhere from 0 to 50, which is from dairy and the occasional low carb veggie that comes in when I flex keto. And we'll talk about why I do that. But I try to stay as low as I possibly can. But as long as I'm hitting 15 and under, even on my keto days, I'm generally okay with that. So essentially what I'm doing is I kind of cycle through this stuff. I have high performance days where I do more moderate on carbs, and those are the days when I allow myself some keto stuff if I want it. The keto stuff is optional. But if I feel like I want it, I allow myself to have a little bit more moderate carb keto stuff where I have maybe some lettuce on a salad and a few veggies if I want that. It bulks up my food, which makes me feel really full, which is great sometimes. It gives me some variety, but I don't have to do it. It's just on the days when I'm like, I would really like that today. Mostly I'm carnivore. My reset and clarity days, I am really strict on the carnivore thing, like super, super strict. And the goal of doing this is that I'm tuning my metabolism like a guitar, okay? I'm tuning this. I'm not guessing, I am guiding based on what my body is experiencing and what my brain is experiencing. So let's talk about kind of how my shred protocol exists here. And one of the things that I'm going to do is I'm actually going to compare this a little bit with protein sparing modified fast, because I was telling someone about this and they said, oh, you're doing protein sparing modified fasting. And I was like, no, I'm not. There's some similarities, but there's some really significant differences as well. And it's really important that we talk about those little differences, because those small differences are what make all the difference, especially for me personally. So, first of all, the philosophy of my shred protocol is precision and performance. The philosophy behind protein sparing modified fasting is honestly, it's kind of starvation for quick weight loss. It like legitimately, if you go back to, I think it was in the 70s when they developed PSMF, I mean, it's like really, really low calorie and super low fat to a point where like you're kind of starving your body, and it's forcing quick weight loss, which weight loss is great if you have weight to lose. I'm not trying to force my body to do anything. I'm trying to set it up in a way where it's precise, it's performing well, and let it lose weight quickly but naturally. Let's talk about protein. In my shred protocol, it's 1 to 1.5 grams per pound, plenty to preserve your muscle and your bone density and all of the other things, but not trying to force excess protein. It's just trying to make sure you get plenty of it. PSMF is very high protein, generally speaking, usually 1.5 to 2 grams per pound. So almost double what I do some days. It's a lot of protein, which there's nothing wrong with lots of protein, but it's so protein focused so that you can't get any fat. In my shred protocol, fat is a lever for energy. So there are days where I go way lower on fat because I'm trying to shred down. And then there's days where I have a lot more recovery and I'm actually going high fat, and I'm really enjoying that because it's good for my brain, it's good for my hormone production. And even on my days that I'm lower fat, I'm still usually higher fat than protein sparing modified fasting is. because I need a certain amount for my brain for the hormone production. Because if you guys didn't see the video, I have autism, ADHD, OCD, bipolar as a result of some of these things. Like there's neurodivergent stuff going on, and I'm regulated and completely unmedicated. And part of that is because of the fat in my diet, because animal fat and ketones and all these things are so good for your brain. So I don't want to like just push super low fat to try to force myself to just, shred down as much as I can. I want to shred as quickly as possible while still maintaining the clarity and the good feelings in my brain. So my fat is a lever where I can pull back and I can really try to force my body to burn some fat, and then I can add it back in and I can go, cool, my brain is good. So I'm using fat as a lever for energy. In PSMF, it's nearly eliminated. A lot of times it's less than 20 grams a day. I mean, that's like super, super, super low. My shred protocol, calorie intake. Now, again, I don't count calories, and I don't think calories matter in the sense that most people think that they do, the way we've been taught in standard nutrition. But calories are at least a good reference point just to understand how to play with your macros back and forth to figure out what makes you feel good. I use my calories in a sustainable way. I'm in a calorie deficit because I'm burning body fat and I want to use the extra stuff from my body, but I'm doing it in a sustainable way. I'm not trying to push it super, super low because I don't want to go into that whole starvation mode thing. I'm not in any way doing that. I'm just, here's kind of my baseline, and I just take my food intake and I go, and I just push it down a little bit to force my body to go, okay, I need to use up the excess junk we don't need here so that we can get that burning of fat to happen. So I'm just using it as a little bit of a lever, but I'm keeping it really sustainable, not starving, not feeling super hungry, feeling great. PSMF can be sometimes as low as 600 to 800 a day. I mean, that's like very little food, and you can throw yourself into starvation mode if you're not careful with that. Let's talk about the duration. My shred protocol is a lifestyle. I should be able to do this flexing back and forth as necessary pretty much for the rest of my life. Protein sparing modified fast is usually a tool that is meant for rapid weight loss, a couple of weeks max, or if you have to do it, like you can do it a couple of days a week, but then you got to go back to doing other stuff, because if you push that too hard, you can throw yourself into starvation mode, or you can just be not healthy. Like, you got to be really careful with some of that stuff, because fat is vital. We know that fatty acids are really important for our health. So my goal with my shred protocol is a long-term fat loss and energy in a sustainable lifestyle way. The goal of PSMF is rapid scale drop, and maybe that's a tool under the right supervision that works for you, and that's cool, but it's not really meant as like a daily lifestyle thing. It's not something you can really do. The mindset of my shred protocol is for you to feel empowered, for you to feel like you have the power and the control so that you can flex back and forth as need be and work on your body composition and work on how you feel, but also give yourself the flexibility when you need it to sustain your mental energy and your hormone balance and your optimistic mood and like all of these things that make you live your life fully and joyfully. You've got to be able to have control and power over that. That's the whole point. PSMF, what I have been sort of seeing in my research, is a lot of people feel really deprived, and that's kind of the mindset, is they feel like I can't have any of these things, so I got to really restrict them, and I'm deprived of those things. I don't want you guys to feel that way. And again, PSMF may be a useful tool. If it's useful for you, great, but it's just not what I'm trying to do, and it's not what my shred protocol is about. So the results of this for me, and what I think would be the results for probably many other people, is that your shred protocol that I'm doing gives you metabolic control. This is what bodybuilders do, right? It's way less extreme than what bodybuilders do, but it's that same concept. If I can do certain things to shred down, get ready for competition, and then they kind of refeed and they're happy, and all of these things. We're not trying to be bodybuilders here, at least I'm not. But I'm using that concept of doing things intentionally metabolically, but in a much more sustainable way over the long term. PSMF from what I've seen, can run the risk of burnout and rebound because you're being so restrictive as a short-term tool that, like many diets, not lifestyles, diets that are out there, you can swing way too low and then you come back and it comes back with a vengeance. So that's what I'm trying not to do. So PSMF is kind of like a survival mode thing for your body. My shred protocol is about performance mode, and I'm trying to like optimize my performance and the way I feel while also optimizing my shred so that I can lose that extra weight. I'm not trying to teach starvation. I'm trying to teach precision for my body. That's my goal. It's not about starving. It's about precision, so I know exactly what to do to get my body to burn the excess weight without feeling deprived or like I'm weak or my mood is low or my hormones are out of balance or any of it. I want to be clear and stabilized while taking care of the extra fat on my body. So all of this that we're talking about here, and I'm going to go very, very deep into how I calculated all of my shred stuff and all of that as I do those videos. And if you have questions, drop them in the chat and I'll answer them here in a minute. But all of this is sort of wrapping up in this idea. Dogma destroys results. And quite honestly, it destroys people. I've watched it. I have people who email me and message me and contact me, and we meet in person, Ash and I do. And they go, thank you for not being like all of these other carnivore people or all these other keto people or whoever it is in some Facebook group, because I went asking questions and I got crucified because I suggested something that wasn't perfectly clean, or I asked a question just trying to learn something and they jumped down my throat about it. And it's like, it's asinine the way dogma has destroyed the concept that should be this positive message of what this whole low carb, proper human diet spectrum can be. Keto, carnivore, all of this can work together, but the dogma is destroying the results. If it works for your body, it's not cheating. Okay? It's a strategy. If it works for your body, it's not cheating. Are you better than someone else because you're strict carnivore? No, absolutely not. Are you less than someone else because you're keto and you use some keto sweeteners and you use some veggies and whatever? No, you're absolutely not. If it works for your body and you're happy and you're healthy, that's all that matters. And anybody who thinks that they're better than you because their diet is somehow stricter or more elite or something, they can take a hike and go jump off a bridge. Like, this is ridiculous that there are people that think that being dogmatic about this is somehow going to have some positive impact on the world. So is strict carnivore better if it works for your body? Yes. Is keto better if that works for your body and your brain? Yes. It doesn't matter what of these things you're doing. If it's making you feel good, your health is good, you're stable, you're satisfied, you can live this as a lifestyle and you can stick to it long term, then that's the right way of doing it. And so when I'm saying you don't have to be carnivore, maybe, is because there's no law, there's no rule, there's no religious thing that says you have to be carnivore or you're not good enough. But if your body tells you that carnivore is better for you, then listen to your body and do what's best for you. And if your body says, no, keto makes you better, then listen to your body. If your brain says, I can't stick to carnivore because if I do, I'm going to go off the rails, well, then it doesn't matter if you would be carnivore, because if you can't stick to it, it's not going to do any good anyway. So you have to figure out, how do you balance what your brain needs and what your body needs? And you can't lie to yourself and say that, oh, keto is better for me and I'm just happy, that way, whatever, if you're still really struggling with health issues. Like, if that's happening, maybe you need to try carnivore as an elimination diet at least, and then you can start working back the other way if you want. It's up to you. But being carnivore just because you have to prove to everybody else how carnivore you can be, or being carnivore because that somehow makes you a more valuable person in the low carb space, that's a bunch of bull crap. And it's ridiculous, the anger that you can see online in the community from people who believe that somehow that makes you better. Maybe it is better, maybe it's not. But if you treat people like you have a hammer in your hand and you're going to hit them over the head with this whole carnivore is best idea, it doesn't really matter whether it's good or not, because all you're doing is dooming people to a fate of bad health because you look like you're crazy. So this whole thing of like my shred protocol is about giving people flexibility, myself for one, and then anyone else who wants to, look into it and maybe try it. It's about flexibility so you can optimize your precision and your performance with your metabolic health. And you can decide, how do I keep my body functioning as best as it can with all of the right science while having the flexibility to decide for myself what the best way is, what makes me feel the best, what makes me happiest, most stable, optimizes my brain function, my hormones, my satiety, my lifestyle, all of this stuff. So, I'll be telling you guys more about like what I'm eating on a daily basis so that you can see how it actually plays out in my life. But I'm really intentional about these things. And it's been about 3.5 weeks now that I've done this. I've lost 25 pounds in the last 3.5 weeks. And this is after I used to look like this. And I lost 130 pounds. So I went from this to looking more like this. And now this is good, but you can actually see in my face in this picture, and then my face here live in front of you, my cheeks and everything now are a little bit trimmer than they were even in this photo. What happened is I got to this point and my body kind of stalled out. And then because of the undiagnosed neurodivergence, my cortisol being through the roof, it actually turned back around and I started gaining a little bit of weight, even though my diet never changed. And so that's what really led me down this road. Once I got, when I got to this point of having a diagnosis and understanding autism and ADHD and what's going on with cortisol in my brain and how that affects your body and all this kind of stuff, I realized I was struggling to regulate. So I got regulated. I did all the things that helped me regulate, which I'm going to be doing some videos about that as well, especially here and on the new That Chris channel. I'm going to talk about all of that. But once I got regulated, then I knew I was going to be able to go more intentional and do things that pushed it harder. But it's still keeping this regulated. That's why the moderate fat, maybe push the fat low, higher fat recovery days, moderate, like I'm playing back and forth so that I'm keeping the hormones in my brain and my mood and all of that stuff really ironed out and precise. Again, there's that precision with performance. I'm doing that to keep that really precise. And then I flex it so that I can burn body fat and bring it back to recover. And on more active days, I have options. And on days when I'm like, I just want a little something, I just feel like I'm super hungry, add in some keto veggies today because it bulks up my food without blowing like fat macros or calorie content or any of that out the window. So I have some flexibility that I can play around with this. And again, I'm still 95% carnivore, but some days I do a little flex of keto stuff. And I'm not being dogmatic about that because it's working and it's figuring out what works. That's the whole point. So you don't have to be carnivore. You just have to be conscious, okay? Some people thrive pure carnivore. Some feel better adding their yogurt, their avocados, their salads, their whatever low-carb veg, whatever. What matters is your energy, your strength, your peace of mind, your mood, your stability, your metabolic health, your ability to live your life, right? That is what matters. That is why it matters. So I have an action step here for you guys. I have a challenge for you for this week, and I'm doing it too. I do this every week. So, but I want you guys to really consider taking on this challenge with me this week. I want you to do 1 day strict carnivore. I want you to do 1 day clean, strict keto. And they don't have to be back to back. 1 day strict carnivore, 1 day super strict clean keto, right? And I want you to track your energy, your hunger, your sleep, your focus, and your mental clarity on both of those days and the days after both of those days. Might be good to do the carnivore day, have a couple of days, then do the keto day, have a couple of days, or vice versa, right? And if you already have this figured out, like I've done this and I know I'm carnivore, I know I'm keto, that's fine. But if you're one of those people who's still wondering, this is for you. 1 day strict carnivore or keto and a couple of days of monitoring, and then 1 day strict keto or carnivore, whichever one you didn't do the other day, couple of days of monitoring. Track your hunger, your energy, your sleep, your focus, all of that. And really decide which one of these made me feel better. Which one of these is what made me feel like this is a lifestyle I can sustain? And just think about that. And if it was carnivore, you might want to do an elimination diet and work your way backwards. And if it was keto, you might start there and then maybe work towards the carnivore, or maybe don't. It's up to you. But just think about what you can do to optimize your precision and your performance. And I'm going to tell you guys more about my shred protocol and sort of how that looks on my daily sort of dietary basis lifestyle thing. And we'll kind of go from there. So drop your questions in the chat if you have any information that you would like to offer to this, whatever. In the meantime, come join us in the band, because this QR code right here is going to take you to my private community. And we're going to be talking a lot about this. I'm going to be sharing a lot more. They're going to be the first ones to get kind of the little shred protocol sheet that I'm going to put together, like everything. So go right here to the QR code, right? You can scan it. Where is it? Where is it? It's over. There it is, right there. It's hard to figure out when everything is mirrored on my screen here. Go to the QR code here. Join the band if you would like the extra information, the live streams, extra recipes, support of a community. And if you would like to go deeper with this whole shred protocol thing, we're going to do a lot of this. And I think that this is going to be really cool. So like I said, over the last about 3.5 weeks, I've lost 25 pounds doing this. And I'm still, figuring out for me personally exactly how it works. But I've really hit a rhythm, and this is really, really good. You can ask Ash. She has told me, like, it was funny, we were laying in bed the other night, and we were watching some TV before we go to bed, and she reached over and she had her hand on my arm here, and I was like doing this, and you can see it in my arm right there, right here, the muscles in my arm as I move my fingers. Like, my inflammation has gone down and I've lost extra fat in my arms. And she goes, I can feel the muscles and like the tendons and stuff in your arm. She goes, I don't think I've ever felt that before. And what's cool is, even though I'm not at the lowest body weight I've been at in years and years, I'm fairly close to that lower body weight again as I'm losing down. But what's interesting is, even though I'm a little higher body weight on the scale, I actually seem to have more muscle and less inflammation than I did when I looked like this. So my arms actually have less inflammation now than they did in this picture, even though in this picture I was a little bit lower weight than I am right now. That's because, I think, of the protein and being intentional about shredding the fat without losing things like bone density and muscle density. And that's because the shred protocol is all about balancing and keeping my brain right and keeping my muscles intact. And again, it's not doing this whole PSMF, like starve yourself, super, super, super low fat thing. It's flexing a little bit of low fat and coming back and keeping moderate fat, focusing on ruminant meats. It's very animal forward. Whether you choose to go all carnivore on the shred, or even if you want to flex into keto a little bit, or you can do keto every day if you want, whatever. It's all up to you. But either way, it's very animal fat and protein forward. Regardless of whether it's keto or carnivore, it's very much about the animal fat and protein, and flexing that fat to where it's maybe low to moderate, maybe high fat recovery back, and really balancing your brain so your brain knows how to tell your body what to do and run properly, but also your body can burn the extra fat you have. So it's a lot of different things. So, okay. let's go ahead and let's take a look at the chat over here, because I know we probably got some questions and stuff. And if you all have questions, you want to know more about any of this, just ask away. We'll drop into the chat here and see what's going on. Let's see. There's Deanna. There's Karen, Kathleen, just catching up to where we were here. All right. Let's see. We already said hi to Patricia. And let's see. Mrs. Newton's was saying amen. I'm assuming I said something that she was agreeing with. Awesome. Dustin says we're all in this together. Yes, we absolutely are. And if we don't help each other and support each other, then what are we doing? You know? Deanna says North Georgia mountains. Very, very cool. And Cindy says Kentucky here, day of rest after another bowling tournament day. That's awesome, Cindy. Good for you. Oh, speaking of bowling, that made me think about physical activity. I also walk on almost a daily basis now, like after dinner, 10 to 20 minutes of walking. Just being active. Ash and I are going to join a gym probably here as soon as I get done with all the cookbook pictures. We have a little bit more time. So yeah, so a little physical activity, keeping yourself mobile. You don't have to kill yourself and go to the gym, 5 hours a day, 7 days a week. You don't have to do that, but just being physically active to keep your metabolism doing its thing, that's also part of what I'm doing. So Loretta says, this is so true, listening from Kansas. Hello, Loretta. Okay, we're getting caught up here. We're getting back to it. Auntie says, in my thinking, whether it be keto, carnivore, proper human diet, some version of low carb, make it sustainable for you. Absolutely. If it's not sustainable and you don't stick with it, it doesn't matter how good it is, it ain't going to do you any good anyway unless you stick to it. So you got to figure out how to make it sustainable no matter what it is. When we just have to optimize it, whatever that sustainable element is. That's the goal, right? That's the key. Okay, I think I'm just about back. Here we go. Risa's Cluttered Kitchen is here. Hello, all. Good morning, Risa. And Yogi is here. Good morning, Yogi. Terry says, what a difference, Chris. You look amazing now. Well, Terry, thank you. I'll be honest. When I look at this guy right here, and I think one of my favorite, because it's so terrible, one of my favorite pictures is this one from the back, and you can see my sides and my back fat and the back rolls and everything. I look at that and I look at my arms and stuff and I go, man, I was so sick and I was struggling so bad. And then I look at the way that I am now and I'm like, I'm not even the same guy, it's really amazing. Also, look at the look on my face. That's pretty much how I felt on a daily basis. And I didn't smile. I didn't have joy in my life because everything hurt. It was so bad. This is why when people are like, why are you a fat carnivore? And I'm like, unless you've been 400 pounds, you're not going to have a clue what it is like to lose that much weight and then how long of a process it can be to get everything back to where it needs to be. And let's add on top of this the neurodivergence, autism, ADHD, OCD, all of these things, and the struggle that plays when you're undiagnosed for over 30 years. There's a lot more going on than just eat steak and lose weight. There's a lot to this. Kel is here. Hey, Chris. Hi, Kel. How are you today? Sharon is here. Hi, Chris and Ash. Good to see you, Sharon. Hello, Ken. Good morning from Stacy and Ken. That's our friends Easy Peasy Keto. Stacy and Ken are awesome. Miss you guys. Do It Wrong, Lewis Stone says, that's why I tell people I'm on the KED diet. There you go. John Wise is here. Just got here, catching up at 1.5 times. Excellent, John. Good to see you. Cindy says, I completely agree, Chris. The camaraderie within the ketogenic community is plain stupid. We should all be supporting one another where we are at the moment. I agree. We have to support each other because if we don't have people to rely on and we're just trying to struggle and discipline and fight our way through this, who's going to be successful at that? You can't be a tribe if you beat each other up over the slight differences in how you think this all works best for your body. Kel says, having a histamine intolerance, so mainly eating lamb. Love your leg of lamb recipe. Well, thank you, Kel. I really enjoy that too. If you guys didn't see that, I have a roast leg of lamb. You can also do beef with it, like a roast beef, but works either way. But it was really, really good. Denise is here. Hello, friends. Hi, Denise. And there's Andy. Hi, everyone. I've been here for a hot minute and just didn't say anything. LOL. Well, I'm glad you're here, Ann. And there's Marilda. Hello, the beautiful Marilda. Good morning, Chris and Cindy. Ann says, I'm so glad to hear Chris say this. I found that there are times I really do need a keto day to avoid food and meat fatigue. And that's a real thing for some people. Some people don't experience that at all, and some people really do. And both of them are right. And that's the thing. Like, there's no reason to beat someone up because they experience it or beat someone up because they don't experience it. We're all a little different. And if you experience it, then it's just about finding solutions, right? Doesn't make you any less or any more. Cindy, mixing things up on this way of eating is what keeps it sustainable for me and Brian. Absolutely. And if it makes it sustainable and you can stick to it, it makes it a lot more successful. And Risa says, mixing things up is the way to go to convince your body to change. I agree. I totally agree. Denise says, yes, I do like ketovore meals to break up the routine. Absolutely. Rick is here. Charger Mopar, back from a stubborn van with no reverse. Hey, Rick, glad you're here. Let's see. And he says, there are people like me who are dogma free, carnivores like me. Yep, absolutely. Appreciate that about you, Rick. We really do. And Bella is here, says, what I like in this community is the kindness and the tolerance. There is a guideline and each person can adapt and play around with it. Absolutely. And that's why we promote that tolerance and that just kindness as we all work this out together. There are facts that cannot be changed. Medical and metabolic health and these kinds of things that are facts, the science. But how we apply it and what the exact balance of that is and what steps we take to get better and better and better, that's up to each individual to figure out how they're going to do it. So Rick says, I've just added sauerkraut to my diet and feel better. That's great, Rick. Good for you. I'm glad that's working for you. Sherry says, I do my best to only ask questions if I have any in the safe zone of influencers. I agree, Sherry. There are places where it's a good way to get your head taken off by people who think they know more than they do. So that's why I'm so insistent that our community, and at least in the places I can control it, is as supportive and understanding and encouraging as possible. Because even if you're doing something that I think is a terrible idea, I can tell you that, but I can do it in a very kind, respectful, and encouraging way and not beat you over the head for it, but say, hey, that's cool. Have you thought about it having blah, blah, blah effect? Would that maybe be something you might want to consider working your way away from? Like, and if not, that's cool. Like, I'm not going to judge someone for it, but we have to really be careful about how we treat people because, if someone's struggling, beating them up for it's not going to make it any better. Rick says, had to cut out beef due to expense and eat lower quality meat, so the plants have had to fill the void. And that's a real thing. It's a real thing, and that's been that way for all of human history. If we didn't have access to meat, we would eat plants because we needed stuff to survive. So, let's see. Risa says, I've seen a lot of carnivore videos blogging about a lot of people leaving carnivores. Did that start with Kilt adding fish to his diet? I saw he had a video on adding fish. Risa, there have been people for a while now that have been starting to leave carnivore and talking about it. I don't really know why each individual is doing it. It kind of changes, but this whole thing of leaving carnivore, I think there's a couple of things. One, I think people have tried to be so dogmatic about it, and they've tried to brag about how strict and great and, whatever they are, and then suddenly they hit that wall and realize they can't do it either. And holding yourself to be more elite and better than everybody else is only fulfilling for so long, and then suddenly you realize you can't actually keep up with what you're preaching to everybody else, and then you crash, and you have to come up with a reason why so that you can make an excuse for why you had to do it. So I think people tried to go so strict that they made it impossible to stick to for themselves because they didn't really use common sense. And then the other thing is I think there's a lot of influencers out there that are saying, oh, you should do this or you should do that or whatever. And so people are following just trends on social media, the sugar diet or any of these other kinds of things. And so there's a lot of confusion because people don't really think for themselves and do their own research. They just follow whatever the hot trend is. There's that. And then to be honest, I think some of it is the really dogmatic religious side of the carnivore community. I think they've acted so crazy and so insistent that, you have to do it our way or the highway. I think they've pushed a lot of people away. And I think they've made it look like a cult to people on the outside, to where people who were in it but weren't really dedicated to it to that level just said, no, I'm not going to do this. I actually texted Dr. Kiltz and was talking with him about the whole fish thing. And, he's adding some other things besides just beef. And he was like, I think we need to soften our message because we need to help people, and softening our message is going to do that. And, Dr. Kiltz has been very strict with his own carnivore diet, but he's never beat people up for not doing it exactly like him. He's just promoted what he does. But I think even for him, he's going, there's people that need help. And if you promote this too harshly, they can't hear what you're saying. And you're never going to help people. No matter how right you are, if people can't hear you, it doesn't do any good. So, he, for his own self, is trying out some stuff. And I think he's being honest about it because he's trying to reach people and help people just like I am. So I think there's a lot of reasons for it, but this is why I keep saying the carnivore community is its own worst enemy when they act like a nut job cult that is going to beat you over the head for not doing it right. So I think carnivore is shooting its own self in the foot from time to time when people like that go online and try to make it seem so ridiculous. It's crazy. It's like, you want to try to tell people that they should do nothing that you do, go act like a whack job like some of the carnivores that are online. Rick says, I just gave away fruit trees I grafted to my friends so they can grow their own avocados and mangoes. That's awesome, Rick. And there's my dad, Papa Nashville, in the house. Finally made it. Hope you guys are having a good morning. Prayers for my mom's little puppy dog, Bogey. He's having to have surgery today because he had an accident and he hurt his leg. He broke his leg, and so they got to take him in and get him fixed up. So I know that's really hard for my mom when that stuff happens. My dad, too, because, dogs, for them, just like for Ash and I, are part of the family. So prayers for Bogey, the Chihuahua, today, that his surgery will go well and he will heal quickly. Yogi, Kiltz not only added fish, he was adding potatoes. At least that's what he said. So he's not adding potatoes. He has always, on like a couple of times a year basis, had like some duck fat fried French fries or baked potato. It's very, very, very rare that he does it, but on occasion he has done that. Lots of sour cream, lots of fat, whatever. So that's what he's talking about. He's not adding in more things than he's already been eating. He was just using it as a, occasionally I do this kind of a thing. So, but yeah, he does occasionally have a potato. And, I know there's people out there that freak out about that, but it's like, again, being common sense and results focused and trying to reach people and not look crazy in the process. It's really important. Rick says, I support the plant eaters and always stress go local and seasonal. I love that. And yeah, John's right. Dr. Kiltz has been eating potatoes occasionally for years. Yep, that's a thing. Rick says, not everyone needs to be strict carnivore, and I have seen some who feel best with an omnivorous diet. Yeah, and that seems to be a thing. And Marty says, that's awesome progress. Well, thank you, Marty. I really think so, too. Rick is right. Dr. Kiltz is a great carnivore and keto and plant-based uniter because even though he has his own belief about what the best things are to eat, he's never judgmental towards anyone else, and he just wants to encourage them. Let's see. Dr. Kiltz also says you can be healthy with some fat. Yeah, he talks about it. He's like, extra fat on your body is not the disease. It's a symptom sometimes of things that may be a problem, but extra fat on your body is how our bodies are meant to work because we use that for survival. And he's like, fat is not a disease. It's not making you sick. Now, if you have way too much of it and you have problems, obviously that's an issue, but he's like, he's not one of those if you don't have a six-pack, you're doing it wrong kind of guys. That's why Dr. Kiltz and I get along so well. He's a very sweet man, and major shout out to Dr. Kiltz for all the great things he does. He's a wonderful human being. Rick says, Chris is overweight, but he doesn't look bad. Well, I appreciate that, Rick. I'm working on it, though. We're getting there. And he's right. Whole Foods keto is light years ahead of a standard duck food diet. I agree. Denise, Chris, you were brave to share your journey. Well, Denise, you're very sweet. Listen, you can't help people if you don't share reality. And if you're not vulnerable with people and you don't show them authenticity and things that are real, They're never going to believe you. I mean, heck, I'm vulnerable and try to be as real as I can, and there's people online that still accuse me of all sorts of ridiculous things and lying and all this stuff and don't believe me. I mean, it's just, if you want to reach people, you have to be real and authentic, and you have to be vulnerable and show people the journey you're on. Because when you've already arrived at your final results, people who are at the beginning of a journey, they don't relate to the people at the end of the journey. They relate to people that are going through the journey. They're still struggling. They're still talking about things because that's what they're in the midst of too. You can't encourage people if you act like, I've already got it all figured out. You got to be like me. It just doesn't work. Never in history has that worked. Rick says he's more brave than me. I will not show my vegan-like physique. You're funny, Rick. And Terry says, uh-oh, he's making us go interactive. That's correct. Jackie says, when you say clean carnivore, how far towards lion do you mean? I don't mean lion at all. Lion diet is when you eat nothing but ruminant meat and salt and water. If that's something you're up for and you want to do that, I think it's great. I don't think it's going to hurt you. Not at all what I talk about. I think if you want to do that and that works for you, I think it's great. I don't think 99% of people would ever need to do that. I think lion diet it can be helpful for probably anybody, but people who need lion diet, like long-term permanently, like a Michaela Peterson type person, you're talking about a very small, tiny, minuscule percentile of people who have such serious metabolic issues, and they have sensitivities, food sensitivities, and all of these different issues where anything but red meat is a major problem for them. That's a very, very infinitely small group of people. But I think a lot of people promote that as being so good because they want to feel special and they want to feel like somehow they're better than everybody else. And everyone wants to be the exception to the rule, right? Because it makes us feel validated that we've struggled if we're the exception to the rule that's different than everybody else. But the reality is most of us aren't. I'm sorry, and I'm one of them. I'm not the exception to the rule. I'd love to be the exception to the rule. I'm not. And anything that I've done where I think like, oh, I'm the exception to the rule, most of the time, no, I'm really not. Most of us operate somewhere in the average, and there's a very few small group of people who are the exception to the rule, and they may need a lion diet. So when I say clean carnivore, I'm talking meat, fish, eggs, all the animal products. If you want to include dairy a little bit, that's fine. I would just say just don't overdo the dairy. Butter, whatever, and seasonings as you do or don't wish. What I would avoid is like chopping up an onion and putting it in things. That's ketovore, right? That kind of a thing. Don't actually chop veggies. You want to use a few seasonings? Okay, fine. Flavor your meat. But for the most part, I'm talking meats, seafoods, beef, chicken, pork, seafood, eggs, any kind of animal products, maybe a little bit of dairy, as much animal fat as you're looking for, butter and ghee and tallow and lard and bacon and grease and, all those things. So that's what I'm talking about when I say clean carnivore. And limit the seasonings as much as you can, but if you choose to use them, that's up to you. But Denise says, I'm up for this challenge. I love it, Denise. We'll definitely be talking about how it goes for everybody. Terry says, I sleep way better on my only eat meat days. I think even a small amount of carbs trigger little spikes in the night that wake you up. They can for some people, I think. And some of that, it's like, is it the carbs triggering things? Is it fiber that is causing digestive things as you sleep? Like I've noticed for me, so part of my shred thing is I have about an 18-hour fasting window. I eat between noon and 5 most days. I'm trying to hit about anywhere between 16 and 20 hour fast window. Some days I do OMAD, but a lot of days I hit about a 16-hour fast. And so I try to eat all of that within that certain time frame, and I try to stop by 5 because by the time I go to bed 9 to 10 o'clock, usually, that means most things have moved through, and I sleep a lot better when I'm not digesting stuff in the middle of the night. I really, really do. If I eat too late, I have weird dreams. So I'm curious, is it the carbs spiking something? Is it digestive things? Like, I don't know. Would be something to experiment with there, Terry, and see what you think. Viva Cristo Ray is here. Good to see you, my friend. Says, great to hear this, Chris. So what do you eat on the other days that you're not eating carnivore or keto? So I'm eating carnivore or keto every day. Most days I'm eating carnivore. Some days I flex keto. My challenge of do 1 day carnivore and then 1 day keto is for people who either don't know which one they want to be, or if they're kind of doing keto but they're thinking, well, maybe I should try carnivore or whatever. Just, it's an experiment. But either way, all days you should be eating keto, carnivore, something like that, low in carbs, in my opinion. So I eat, most days I'm carnivore and sometimes I flex keto, and that's it. That's my whole lifestyle, all the time. All the time. Good question. Risa, congrats on the 25-pound loss. That's amazing. It is working. Absolutely. It definitely is. And my body looks a lot different, and so does my face. If you guys want to go watch something that recently shows the difference, the Dr. Barry video where I did how to cook a steak the wrong way and the right way, it's like I screwed up a steak for Dr. Barry intentionally. That was right. It was as I was getting all of my diagnosis and my regulation and everything was all coming down to the wire, and I was getting everything figured out and starting to do this. And it was not long after that where I was like, cool. And I started putting together my shred protocol. Go look at me in that video and go look at me now, and you will see how fast that shred protocol starts to work. Jackie says, do you or others find that a single day of an eating plan actually changes how you feel? I hear others talk about mental clarity and energy they get from keto carnivore. I really never get that. So mental clarity for carnivore for me only happened after 2 weeks of solid, strict carnivore. The first time I experienced mental clarity like that, I was 2 weeks into carnivore, no cheats, almost no seasoning. I mean, I was doing beef, chicken, pork, eggs, butter, little to no dairy, and salt. And I occasionally would use a little black pepper, and that's it. And it was a little over 2 weeks in that suddenly the mental clarity really hit me. For some people, it takes even longer. But to get that mental clarity for some people, it seems you have to be very strict. Absolutely no cheats. Because the minute you put in a cheat and it's like, oh, I have a keto day, if that mental clarity, you've never experienced it, that's what you're chasing. When you put in that cheat, for whatever reason, it seems like it just restarts the whole thing for the mental clarity. Now, all the other benefits, it doesn't seem to mess up. But for the people that I've talked to, it seems like 1 day of doing that before you've actually gotten mental clarity, even one meal that has some of that stuff, it's like it somehow, I don't know, restarts the whole process. Like there's something that your brain has to seem to go through. And some of that I think is also leveraging that fat, because if you don't have the hormones balanced right, mental clarity doesn't come from that, because that's a hormone and focus mental thing, which is where your fat comes from. So Jackie, I would say maybe look at what you're doing fat-wise and see if, that, or just being super strict carnivore for 90 days, if that would maybe bring it for you. I don't know. Everyone's a little different, so... but for me, it took 2 weeks of really strict carnivore, and now I kind of know what it's like. So if I'm not getting it, I'm like, okay, something's off. Fat, hormones, something. And I've learned ways to flex it where I can really keep chasing that mental clarity while still having these other things. But it took me a long time and a lot of research to learn how that would work for me personally. Bella says, I'm in, but I'll do it after I come back from visiting my dad. There you go. Kim, have you noticed any differences in your musical ability since you've started the shred protocol? Do you find it's easier to play that awesome riff? Yes, very, very much so. Mental clarity, just attitude, like all these things. I am so much better doing my shred protocol. Ash can tell you, we just played a show, what was that? Was Friday, Saturday, I guess it was. Anyway, this past weekend, Saturday. Yeah, we just played a show on Saturday in the morning. We opened for Aaron Tippin. Got to meet him. That was really cool. A 90s country artist. Huge deal. We got to open for Aaron Tippin. We played the show here just about an hour outside of Nashville, I guess. And Ash, after we got done, she goes, I was so impressed by you. She goes, you were so good today and so supportive, and just your mood, your attitude is so good. She's like, this is really working for you. This shred thing you're doing is incredible. Like just, and not like I'm, trying to be difficult or anything, but I would get really dysregulated and exhausted from going and playing shows because that's a lot when you're neurodivergent and you have all of the sounds and the people and the different thing. I mean, there's very overstimulating things playing a show like that. And we went and did that, and she was like, I was really impressed by you. Like, this is the best show I've like, your attitude, mood, afterwards, all that kind of stuff, your energy levels, the best you've ever done. And she was like, this shred thing is really working for you. And I play better because I can think clearer, and I'm in a good mood, and, my mood is regulated, makes me play better. So yes, absolutely, it's made a big difference. It will make a difference in everything for you guys. Kathleen, so glad I was able to tune in today. I needed to hear this. Gives me some good ideas, and I look forward to your related videos. Well, thank you, Kathleen. Yes, I'm going to be releasing the Shred Protocol videos just a little bit here and there, one at a time, hopefully over the next few weeks here as we can really start getting this stuff out there and just, give you guys some ideas. So we'll be talking about it in the band first, so go to the QR code here if you guys want to come join the band and have some support on all of this. And then we'll kind of go from there, and I'll be putting out some videos about it. So Jackie says, I've never felt the near euphoria that others describe in the PhD spectrum eating. I'm here on faith that this is the healthy PhD choice for humans and thereby my health. Yeah, I don't know if I would call it euphoria. I think I just realized I functioned so much better than I did without it because I really struggled. So I would look into things like hormones and fat and how that's all going to help your brain, Jackie, because, and here's the thing, it's different for women than it is for men. Sorry, guys, if you're telling women what they need to be doing with their hormones and how they should be eating, you need to shut your mouth because your body does not work the way theirs do. My wife will tell you all sorts of things about this. So will Coach Alyssa, Dr. Barry's head coach, really great friend and the one that has really helped Ash a lot. Women do not feel the same as men in these ways, and there's things that they can do to tweak things that do not work that way for guys. So guys, if you're trying to tell a woman what to do with her hormones, if you're not a doctor, shut your mouth. Jackie, what I would say is look into some hormone information from some women that can give you some ideas about what to do with your brain, and maybe that might help you because it might be a little different for you than it is for me. But fat and hormone balance and getting that all correct, that's going to make a big difference for your brain. And that feeling of just the clarity and the feeling really good about myself, that comes from balancing out the hormones in my brain big time. Coach Lisa is here. Hey, Lisa. Hello, number one chef. It's good to see you, Lisa. So glad you tuned in. Hope you and Ash are well. Truly grateful that you're acknowledging the need to walk, exercise, and engage in an active life. This creates energy. I totally agree. Yep. Absolutely. If you do all of these things, but you don't do, and you don't have to, beat yourself up and like do crazy things, but, little things that keep you active and moving, that just one step at a time, moving closer and closer to a more active lifestyle, like that changes everything, guys. You gotta be just moving around and just keep your body going. You don't have to like make yourself hurt and, all this kind of stuff, but just go for a walk, or if you can't even walk, like, go for a quick meander around your living room. Like whatever is a little bit extra effort for you, do that and then step it up a little at a time. My walking is getting faster as I'm doing it. There you go. We're going to go join a gym soon too. So Risa, Chris, you look sad in that picture. Not anymore. That smile says it all. Yeah, I was very sad in that picture because when you look in the mirror and that's what you see, there is not a lot to feel good about when you see that kind of stuff when you're in that sort of brain space where I was. But I'm a lot better now, and that's why I do what I'm doing, because I don't want anybody else to feel like they are stuck looking like that guy did. There's people out there that feel just like I felt in that picture, and I want to help and try to pull every single one of them towards a much happier, brighter, and more optimistic future, not just with their physical and metabolic health, but with their mental health too. It's really important. That's why it matters so much that we don't beat people up for not doing it right. Because this guy here, if you would have told me that I was doing everything wrong and all these kinds of stuff, you would have driven me closer to ending my own life. Quite honestly. I don't think people out there who beat other people up and when they're dogmatic like that, I don't think they realize that it's like, do you want to live with the idea that maybe you were the one person that could have given someone hope and instead you drove them to take their own life? because they were struggling and they were truly that down and depressed, and they were reaching out for hope, and you slapped them and beat them up over the head with the fact that they didn't do it right for you, and you judged them and you called them names and you told them they were fat and you told them they were stupid and all these kinds of, I mean, like, I don't know how people could live with themselves. So that's why it matters that as a carnivore community or a keto community or just the proper human diet community, that's why it matters that we get over ourselves and we stop doing all of the argumentative, dogmatic BS. Ann, please pray for me giving up Coke for the 105th time. I get it, Ann. Hey, Dr. Barry talks about that. He says start mixing it half and half with soda water, and just keep using less and less and less until suddenly you're just drinking the sparkly water and you don't need the Coke anymore. Might be something to consider. So, but you can do it. Just whatever you do, just keep trying, keep going after it. Let's see. Brian says, clear as a bell on day 2 of a 72-hour water fast. That's awesome, Brian. Good for you. Holly Springer is here. Good morning, friends. Catching up on 1.5 times. And Paula is here. Good morning. Love this. Well, thank you, Paula. Glad you're here. Let's see. Jackie, I do think I have a general decrease of inflammation that slams into me when I have a very occasional splurge day. Feeling that today after yesterday's social event, restaurant, fish and chips, and gelato. Yep, then that's the thing, Jackie. It'll do it. And the truth is, you know, you got to get sometimes 30, 60, even 90 days in with no cheats before you can really feel all that inflammation go away. And then it comes back with a vengeance, and you can really see it. So, yeah, just, you know, something to consider. But you're doing it. Just keep fighting. Keep going. Lynn says, I'm glad you addressed this topic, Chris. Bickering helps no one. PhD helps anyone who decides to dedicate to it, whichever version of it works for them. Kindness is free. Absolutely. Absolutely. I totally agree. Have fun with your cooking. There are so many ways to mix it up. Don't let yourself get super stressed out. I agree. I totally agree. Colleen, each person is different. If you see your labs going in the wrong direction, you may need to adjust your nutrition. Absolutely. Absolutely. Worry about your labs. Don't beat somebody else up over what you think theirs might be. I think that's kind of the message there, right? So thank you, Colleen. It's great. Let's see. B Branch Bunnies is here. This is good. My diet is not my God. It is a tool. When it stops serving me, I will change. Love it. Amen. John says, since no living creature actually burns calories, can you rethink your shred protocol explanation without using the word calorie? John, the problem with that is that there's no other word that means what calories mean. Now, the use of calories in terms of what people use it to mean does not work. I totally agree. But there's not some other word out there that means the same thing that I can transplant it with. And taking calories, the word calories is not in there because it's something that I have to use. It's there because my goal is to communicate this to people who need to understand it. Let me see if I can respectfully, John, you're asking me to change terminology to suit your personal beliefs, not use terminology as a way to clearly communicate a well understood concept to people who need help. What you're doing is being dogmatic about the terminology I'm using because you don't personally think the word calories should be used. So you need to not think about what you want, and you need to think about what clearly communicates with millions of people who need help. I don't have time to explain to everyone why when I'm using the word calorie, it doesn't mean what everyone else in the world says calories mean. I don't have time to give people a long explanation of why we don't burn calories and that the bomb calorimeter is not how our body works, and we don't have a endothermic system where heat is being produced and blah 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 blah. Do you see how much I can't even answer your question without going into a long explanation? So for me to pull the word calorie out would require multiple explanations just trying to get a simple protocol out there to help somebody. So with all due respect, you got to get outside of your own head and realize that people need help, and the term calorie is a word in the English language, and how you feel about it is irrelevant to helping other people. I love you, John, but this is the kind of attitude that I'm talking about. You got to get past this and stop bringing up things that we can butt heads over because calories aren't what I would say it are. You got to find a different word. What word would you like me to use? Do you see how you're starting division by saying, well, you need to reformulate this because I don't believe in You got to stop that, John. We're not doing this. Not playing that game. Let's see. Lisa says, same Chris, I spoke with Kiltz in regards to his blood work and why it was going in a direction that was not as beneficial. It's what we choose to stay steadfast. No processed foods stay. Interesting. I haven't gotten to really have a deep conversation with him about it, but I think it's really cool that he's doing everything that he can to try to help people, and he's being honest about stuff. Marisa says, I appreciate Kiltz being honest about changing. Yes, being dogmatic doesn't do any good. I totally agree. Totally agree. Let's see. Charger Mopar Rick says, even I've had plantains deep fried in tallow occasionally. Yeah, and listen, that is completely ancestrally appropriate, because there are times the most meat heavy of people all throughout history have had to eat a few veggies or fruits or whatever to survive. So I'm not saying you should do it regularly. Don't ever do it if you don't have to. But if you do occasionally, your body is technically capable of doing that. I mean, that's how human bodies work. Marilda, I believe especially for me, carnivore is good for healing, getting off meds, replacing supplements, eating them through foods. The Lord has been guiding me all the way and through listening to my body. There you go, Marilda. That's all you got to do. And that's fantastic. And this is why we all got to find ways that we can, figure this all out. Let's see. Hey, John, what's up, my brother? Carnivore Trucker here. It's good to see you, buddy. I was looking at your seasoning in my cabinet yesterday as I was getting ready to get some stuff out for my shred protocol, and I was like, I need to pull out his seasoning and use that on my shrimp coming up here. So I love that stuff. Good to see you, John. Glad you're here. Let's see. Rick says, I give advice to some people to switch from processed foods to plants and even plant-based remedies that work. Yeah, absolutely. It's really cool. It helps to really know your body. I'm struggling with inflammation, keeping me from losing weight after a year of carnivore. However, I'm now inconsistent due to frustration. Colleen, I understand. I think maybe what you might be running into is kind of what I was running into, that sometimes it goes deeper than just the food you're eating. And there's a lot of other things that you have to look at. For me, inflammation was sticking around because I had cortisol through the roof in my brain. What the cause is, I don't know, and I'm not a doctor, but I would say maybe look into it and be like, so it's not just carnivore, but there's other things going on in my body and my brain. What do I need to do? How do I lower my cortisol, my inflammation, the things that are really causing issues for me? How do I do that and regulate and stabilize? I think it would be really, really cool. Kel says, agree with supporting people going through the journey. That's why I love Larry and Cassie with Carnivore Quest. They have the realistic journey with the struggle like the rest of us, keeping it real. Yeah, they are very open about their struggles, and I think it's really cool that they talk so openly about it. I really hope they can get those things worked out, but yeah, they're great. I love them. They catch a lot of flack for it too, Aisha is here. Hello, I agree. I do my OMAD at 2 p.m. and I sleep way better coming from a lifetime insomniac. Yeah, it makes a big difference for me. Let's see. Please give example for the keto day eating. Thank you, Chris. Sure. You eat meat as much as you want, fat as much as you want, and then you add in a few low carb veggies like lettuce for a salad, zucchini, asparagus, whatever, and you keep it 20 grams or less of total carbs for the day. Whatever it is you like. Good question, Marildo. Terry Sue says, good point about the fiber trying to digest. Sounds pretty logical. Yeah, I mean, that works for me, so. John, my last weird dream had me eating an enormous amount of dried blueberries. I have dreams like that too, John, where it's like I'm eating stuff that I'm like, why am I eating this? Or I freak out about it. So, yeah, it's a really really weird thing. So, let's see. Hi, Diane. I'm new, first time here. Well, I'm so glad you joined. Thank you for jumping in. Good to see you. Colleen says, I love Aaron Tippin. Yeah, we really do too. Really, really great. Steak Mom, I missed it. What is the shred protocol? Well, Steak Mom, I think you best to go back to watch the replay because it's a lot of drawn out explanation that it would be here another hour trying to redo it. But go back and watch the replay, and then I'll have videos coming as well. I also have some basic info about it in the description box for you guys. So, let's see. Sherry, oh my, Chris, better on the guitar. I didn't think you could get any better. Oh, Sherry, you're very sweet. There are definitely days where I feel like I struggle, and then there's days where I feel like I'm doing good. So it's, I appreciate that. I have a really high level of expectation for my playing ability. So, let's see. Just making sure I'm not missing anything here. Merlin, do Dirty Carnivore. Good to see you, Merlin. So do you do Dirty Carnivore, or are you saying that I should do Dirty Carnivore? I'm not sure I understand which one. Because I generally do Dirty Carnivore right now. But if you're doing Dirty Carnivore, that's awesome. I think that's really cool. I think a lot of people really benefit from that. Aisha, Dr. Elizabeth Bright has a lot of great info on fat and women's health. Yes, absolutely. Loretta says, my last comment was apparently too long, but I absolutely feel better on a carnivore diet. Certain vegetables and carbs affect my hormones in a negative way, and some people can experience that, absolutely. Thank you, Chris, for letting us enjoy your amazing adventure and recipes. They have helped me stick to it. Well, Loretta, you're very welcome. I am very, very happy to help. And Rick says, I do a lot of cycling as well as my regular work. That's awesome. And let's see. Merlin, I run 32 miles nonstop once a week. I consume 400 carbs per day. Plus, I eat high-fat carnivore, lower in protein. I come 9,000 total per day. I always stay in ketosis, 0.5 up to 2.8 ketones. Well, when you run 32 miles, I think you can get away with something like 400 carbs. But I wouldn't recommend that for anybody else out there, probably. So, Risa, Rick, in college, I was addicted to Pepsi. I realized it was the caffeine that had me jumping off the walls. Started drinking ginger ale instead. No caffeine. Worked well. There you go. And now I drink sparkling water 4 times a week, 0 sugar soda 2 times a week, 1 a day. Aside from morning coffee, I'm not as affected by caffeine, no longer hyperactive. And that's great. That is fantastic. I love this. After 47 years in this space, wellness, health, fitness industry, dog eat dog will never work. It's about building, supporting, encouraging relationships. I agree, Lisa. We have to work together if we're going to help people. Chris, I pray that someday you can answer questions without assigning motives and personally attacking the questioner. John, I love you, brother, but I pray that someday you can ask questions and not expect me to run my protocols and my channel according to your own personal beliefs when you don't consider everything that what you're saying is going to require of somebody, because there was absolutely no reason for us to talk about calories, because I said straight up front that I don't believe calories are the same as everything else, but you're pointing out what you think is a problem and you don't actually have a solution for it. So I love you, but if you're not going to be respectful, then there's no reason for you to be here. Colleen, my husband is still eating costly processed meal replacements. Since I have not lost weight on carnivore, he won't do it. I understand, Colleen. I really do. Let's see. Let's see. Just make sure we're not missing anything before I let you guys go today. When I run into problems and struggles, I ask myself, what do you want? It gets me back to focus. I like that. Let's see. Love Dr. Bright. Love and recommend her book, Good Fat is Good for Women's Gut. That's great, Jackie. Yeah, she has a lot of great information. All right. Rick, what is dirty carnivore? Roadkill? I like that. Well, guys, thank you so much for watching. I think that hopefully there has been some really good information here just to give you sort of an idea of what can possibly be done with just some intentional stuff, some protocols. I'm going to talk more about this shred protocol, and I'm going to use the word calories, but don't freak out about calories. I'm not talking about calories the way that natural people assumptions would say that I'm talking about calories, but I don't know another word. So, John, I love you. I'm not trying to fight with you, and I'm not trying to take things personally, but I think there is a really big deal that comes along with us trying to change the narrative, and we have to reach out to people who don't already understand. So I appreciate you guys being here. I appreciate you watching and being a part of what I'm doing. I'm going to come out with some more info of what I've been doing, why I'm doing it. And again, not a doctor, not medical advice. I'm just trying to show you what I do, why I do it, and I'm trying to reach as many people as possible with this and make this as clear and applicable to the public at large. So thank you guys for your support. I appreciate all of you. Go to the QR code up here if you would like to join the band so we can work together, support each other in this whole thing, trying to figure out how to get our metabolic health in place. Thank you for Coach Lisa, by the way, popping in. I saw her answering questions and helping some people out, and I think that's really, really cool. So I appreciate you guys all being here. Thank you for watching. This has been a lot of fun today, and I think there's a lot of great stuff coming that we can talk about. So make sure to go join the band if you have the chance and you would like to be a part of that. Otherwise, I appreciate your support, and we will see you guys very, very soon. This is Chris Cook in Nashville. You guys remember, eat your meat, love your life, and we will talk with you all next time.